Good afternoon and welcome to the classroom. Here I have a group of young aspiring media developers. My name is Lathel Douglas. I am a student at Oakland Tech and an animator at YouthBeat. This is the inaugural episode of our podcast, so we do have a very special guest. But before we get to them, I want to allow my other hosts to introduce themselves.
Hello everyone there, my name is Alessandra. I'm a student at Oakland International High School. I'm a filmmaker here at YouthBeat, and I'm excited to get a better sense of what's happening in City Council and how these decisions impact on young people.
Hello everybody, my name is Yamani. I'm a student at Oakland High School. I'm also a filmmaker at YouthBeat. YouthBeat is a nonprofit organization that offers free media arts training to all youth all throughout Oakland.
And as for our special guest, we have here with us District 2 Council Member Charlene Wang.
Hey everyone.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm just excited to be here with you all. I'm honored. Really, inaugural podcast, and I get to be the first guest, so I feel very lucky.
Councilmember Wang, we know you were elected to office earlier this year, and you are passionate about tackling homelessness, beautification here around Oakland. What inspired you to serving as public servant?
Yeah, I think actually for me, how I got started in politics and public services. So I worked on Hillary Clinton's campaign actually in 2016. I thought at the time that we would be having our first, woman president. Unfortunately, I was very wrong about that. And I also just really despised Donald Trump and the rhetoric that he was using. It was just, it was the language of white supremacy. And I wanted to do something about it. And I think for me, the moment on that campaign, since at first I was like, I'm just going to do what I can do to help. I was doing data and analytics actually for the campaign. But in the last month of a campaign, they have you go out in the field and just do a lot of door knocking. You don't need to do data at that point. And I remember I was working in Virginia, and I was doing a lot of door knocking in what was the projects of Richmond, Virginia. It was a really segregated place too. And I think for me, I was just, I was really the stories that people would tell you, especially of people who just felt on the margins, who felt isolated, that also felt like government wasn't there to serve their needs, really resonated with me. For me, I had grown up as a kid with a childhood really turbulent, marked by domestic violence. I was nearly a runaway youth and whatnot, and I think, and it was also enshrined in a lot of shame that didn't need to happen, but it was also in part because my family was an immigrant family and there wasn't the services that we needed and that also were culturally appropriate. And so when I saw their own stories, I thought about my family, and I realized I wasn't alone. We were not alone in our experience in not having the government really serve, my family's need, my community. And so from that point, I decided I'm going to dedicate my life to public service. And so after that, I think I worked in New York. I'm from the Bay Area, by the way, but I was, anyways, now you know a little bit about my childhood. I was like, I need to get away all the way to the other side of the nation. I want to, spread my wings, learn my independence and whatnot. But I then worked in New York City, worked on universal preschool. I worked on some homelessness initiatives. I worked at the U.S. Department of Transportation. Anyways, we don't need to do a resume list, but basically I've worked on all kinds of public policy issues, all with the goal to make government more equitable.
Thank you for sharing your journey with us. I actually don't think most young people know about city council members. So, would you mind walking us through a day in the life as of an Oakland City Council member, and let us know what are your priorities when it comes to addressing issues in Oakland?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my gosh, there's not really a typical day, I will say, in a city council member. It really can run the gamut. Like on a Monday from 9 to 5, it'll be like a lot of meetings, either with my own staff, or it's going to be with other city officials in the department, where I will bring up issues I want to advocate. This is what we need to change. This is what we need to do better. And then there will usually be, after 5 p.m., things where I'm doing things out in the community. There's always an event, something to go to. So that is something like this, right? So this is a lot of what my day is. On Tuesdays, those are city council meetings. So those really can, those can be crazy days. So those are the days that we make our votes. And so Monday night, I'll usually read up all the legislation that I need to make on Tuesday. And Tuesdays can either be really, boring, if I'm going to be frank, if it's like nothing controversial, or Tuesdays can be like we are there in city council chambers until like 11 p.m. Discussing things and hearing from, all the public commenters who come, which even when I don't agree with people who come to public comment, I always appreciate that this is part of the democratic process, activism. That's so much of what Oakland is about. So, and then on the weekends, sometimes we'll do these cleanups. And priorities, right now the top thing I am focused on is the human trafficking issue, which I think you all see, especially in this area, just walking down International, so it's very close by. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for that amazing response, City Council Member Wang. That makes a lot of sense. We were able to get some opinions from students all over Oakland and ask what do they think some of the biggest issues impacting Oakland residents. After the school shootings at Skyline and Laney College and reported sex trafficking of Amory Woods of Castlemont High, many students expressed concern about public safety. This first video was recorded by Cleo Fuller about his question on public safety.
Hey Charlene, my name is Cleophas Fuller. I'm in 11th grade. I go to Oakland High School, and I'm currently on my program called Youth Beat for coordinateness. And I just kind of wanted to ask you a simple question about the safety policies and stuff of Oakland, because I've been living here for a pretty long time, and I kind of want to get like a higher view of like what other people see of it. So my big question mainly for you about Oakland safety is, out of everything you've seen in Oakland already, like its current standards, what do you think is the biggest problem that needs to be tackled to make Oakland a safer place? Because in my opinion, I don't really know what that is, because I've seen a lot of different things of Oakland. So I just kind of want to get a higher view of what can we do to tackle the biggest problem to make it better.
So that is a great question, Cleo. So for me, the way I have diagnosed the issue around public safety, and my answer can be controversial, I'm going to be honest. I really think, for me, the way I see the root of the problem is the fact that we truthfully don't have enough police officers here in Oakland. It just, and I would not say this for any other city, literally, in the United States. New York City, Washington, D.C., they have many officers per capita. Here in the city of Oakland, we actually have the highest violent crime caseload per officer in the nation. And, I think we as a city did some interesting work in the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force. Did you all know about that effort? It happened several years ago to think about how we could move away from policing for a number of public safety issues. I think what we found, and certainly I'm seeing this every day as a policymaker, is there's so many times by which something that sounds simple enough, like parking enforcement, that could in theory be done by a body that is not a police officer, is actually not so easily done without a police officer. There's state laws, there's all these kind of things that actually make it difficult when you think about our systems and the way that government bureaucracies talk to one another, that it just, we can reimagine things, but for me, I also want to be grounded in practicality and the fact that when we don't make grounded, practical decisions, that our communities also suffer for it. I'll give another example. It's like on the human trafficking issue. I have heard from experts like Dr. Joshi at the Department of Violence Prevention, who I really respect, that one of the key things that tools that we really need to do to combat the human trafficking crisis is we need to have more officers that are actually women. We don't have enough at all, and actually if we want to hold especially those who are traffickers or those who are purchasing women or especially minors for sex. And I know this is a heavy topic, if this makes anyone, but you all see it every day, so this is the reality, and we do need these things in order to do that. So that's for me one of the top things, and I just think especially with the next generation, we're having a bunch of police officers retire. I think there's a new opportunity, actually. I want to see police officers that are kind, that are act with integrity, and don't use their position to abuse, but use their position to really protect and try to de-escalate. And I think that is the next generation of policing that we should pursue. I think we should have a community policing model. We should look at social workers. I just reached out to USC. They have a social work and law enforcement program. It's about using the opportunity that we need to recruit more police officers to also actually reform the police department. That way we can build a better culture as well.
Thank you, City Council Member Wang. Many people in my life are concerned about safety of friends and family. We have to ask, what is your vision for school safety and how to ensure the safety of young people throughout Oakland?
Yeah, school safety is so important. So one key thing is we need to work with our Department of Violence Prevention. You guys have interacted with them, I'm sure, our violence interrupters. And so I think they're so key. I will also say that I don't think that's enough. One thing that's really happening is that the problem that we have in California is that actually most of the legal guns, we have some of the strongest gun laws, but this is really going after legal gun ownership. And so what we have here in the state of California is ghost guns getting into hands of people, including young people. And for example, the city of Baltimore recently won a major lawsuit against gun manufacturers because what is happening, and let me clarify what ghost guns are. These are basically guns that people take different parts of, they make a composite gun, basically. So you take parts from different guns to put one together, and that becomes an untraceable gun that one can use for, again, a legal reason. So the fact that Baltimore pursued that, I am very much going to be working with the city attorney to see if we could pursue that sort of similar lawsuit. That way, this plague of ghost guns, I think the ghost gun was what was used to kill Coach Beam in order to prevent this from continuing to happen.
Do you think banning the usage of guns will help Oakland?
Definitely, yes. I think the challenge that we have is we've already banned. We could do more, trust me, on legal guns, but we've already done so much of the work as a state to actually create limitations on legal gun ownership. I will say, not everyone knows this, we have a recent state law called gun violence restraining orders that many people don't know about, but if you know someone, it's like say something. If you know somebody who could cause harm to others, a gun violence restraining order, if you report that to law enforcement, that can actually be used in court in order to prevent that person from getting a gun. For example, again, from a domestic violence point of view, domestic violence perpetuators, actually, I think they contribute to something like 63% of mass shootings. And so it's individuals like that who we absolutely need to pursue these restraining orders. That way they do not get access to a gun and then carry out that harm further into the community. But the other leg that we need to address is the illegal gun problem. And that one is more difficult because it's in the black market. It's in these underground networks that these illegal guns get into the hands of people.
In your view, what essential resources are currently lacking in Oakland school districts to ensure the safety of students, teachers, and staff? And what steps will you take to ensure they are provided?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of things I know is really needed for students here. First of all, I think so many of our students here are dealing with multiple layers of trauma. A lot of kids here, I relate to it in my own story, but are dealing with, troubled homes, dealing with multiple layers of poverty, may not have access to food, things like that. And so I think really what we need, I know when I think about what I needed as a child, what I needed was a mentorship program. I think that's really key and it's sort of like the program that you see here, but it's for kids, young people to see that they're not isolated, that the situation that you're in is not something that there is an end in sight. There's a tunnel at the end of the light. And if you really focus on your education, if you focus on, even if it's tough, I know it can be really hard, but to really just remember that you have a bright future ahead of yourself. I never would have guessed when I was 14 that I would have been a city councilor, and that actually the tough times I went through actually gave me the strength and gave me the knowledge that I have today. So that I think is really key, and just more mentors that are willing to give back and give that hope to our young people.
Thank you so much. That answered a lot of my questions and probably a lot of others' questions too. Thank you so much for responding.
Of course.
Personally, I'm deeply concerned about the ICE displacement here in Oakland and the security of immigrants' communities. So I'm curious, what are you doing now to protect Oakland residents?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple of things that I've already done and working on, and there's some things that I'm hoping to introduce in the new year, legislation. So a couple of things I've been organizing with some churches. Actually, what is not well known is that in the 80s, actually, when the United States was doing these interventions in Central America, like with the CIA, that a lot of immigrants were coming to the United States to escape those the illegal warfare that we were committing in these countries. And it was actually churches that stepped up, and they had a sanctuary movement actually in churches. Sometimes the solution isn't always government because we're not able to move as quickly. And so I've been organizing with immigrant faith organizations. Faith in Action is a faith-based organization that works with churches to do this type of thing where, because this is my thing too, is I see a lot of the protests, and I think protest is fantastic, but also I think about the fact that for the immigrant families in our neighborhoods, protest alone that's not going to make a material difference in their lives. And really what those families need is food delivery. If you're afraid of leaving your house because of federal immigration enforcement, what you really need is our neighbors here in the city of Oakland to step it up and help their neighbors in a real way, not just in protest, but helping people find remote jobs, helping people get food on the table, really, because a lot of people are not able to work as they used to because of the fear of being deported due to going to work. My office is organizing a number of canvassers to pass out flyers in terms of Know Your Rights. ASSELEP is the county resource on, calling in, getting access to legal resources, and that's really going to be important when someone is at risk. If just knowing when an ICE agent knocks on your door, you have no need to answer the door, right? You do not have to do that, and really understanding that. And then finally, I'm working on a City of Refuge ordinance, which actually strengthens our sanctuary city policies. Right now, our sanctuary city policy says that no police law enforcement official can coordinate with ICE. This is going to be a policy that expands it across all of our city departments to say that no city official or staff member can coordinate with ICE, and also saying that non-public areas in our facilities, our city facilities are going to be off cannot be accessed by ICE. So when you think about our recreation centers, our parks, these are different areas that can provide hopefully safety for our communities. But I do want to work out those details with the city attorneys. And then finally, one piece that we are looking into, although it can provide some fraught issues around just constitutionality and how federal law can sometimes take precedent over local law, but this idea that you all might have seen the coverage where the pastor got shot in the face by a federal agent, and it was undue. It wasn't warranted. That pastor was not doing anything, and what role our local law enforcement can be to actually arrest federal agents that violate laws like that. So we will see, but there are questions around, just the interactions between laws there that we need to explore, lest we get into a lawsuit. Yeah.
Could you go deep on that new legislation you mentioned it?
Yes, I'm calling it the City of Refuge ordinance. So it's the idea that it's not just sanctuary, but we're going beyond that. Yeah.
We appreciate all your effort you're doing, because as a student of an international high school, I know many students that are scared to go to work or to go to school because of ICE.
Right.
And they are literally living in fear, and we know this can be resolved overnight, but all are you doing, the city council are doing, is helping us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Shifting gears a little bit, over your last couple answers, you've talked a lot about community and how you would go about helping the community of Oakland. And I just kind of want to get more insight on how you would help, like, the environments of Oakland, like the beautification and the more just cleaning up process. So we have a video from Alex Mayo, who is asking some questions about that. So, yeah.
Hi, Charlene Wang. I'm Alexander, a student at Met West and a member of the Youth Beat Student Council. I enjoy the idea of green manufacturing jobs to help slow down climate change while also helping the homelessness situation. Are there any other solutions that you have considered aside from having green manufacturing jobs?
Actually, this last Tuesday, I introduced a piece of legislation to City Council, and it did pass through what we call the Community and Economic Development Committee. This was a piece of legislation that supports this regulation that's going through what we call the Bay Area Air District. So that is basically the primary body that regulates air pollution here in our region. And what I introduced is this idea that you all have, I imagine your homes, like gas stoves, right?
Yeah.
Okay, or a gas water heater. Those actually contribute immensely to nitrous oxides, which then contribute to asthma, cardiovascular disease, just all kinds of just serious health conditions here in the Bay Area. And so what we're trying to do is actually move towards the use of heat pumps. It's just electrify these things, right? And it's not just about climate change. I will say this is also just a basic public safety issue. If you think about earthquakes, we've had like a lot of earthquakes in the last several months, right? It's been kind of crazy. So when especially in areas like ours that have so much seismic activities, when gas lines rupture, after an earthquake, you'll often see a fire that breaks out. I mean, to me, that is a terrifying thought. And so in order to prevent that, considering that we also live in a very fire-prone region, we saw what happened in LA. We do not want that to happen here. This is around moving towards saying whenever there's a gas furnace that breaks down, that the next time they're going to get that home will instead install an electric version of that. But what's important of the legislation that I proposed is it was saying we also need to look at when we implement these changes, that we are keeping in mind especially low-income families, low-income homeowners, and people that may not be able to afford these changes, to make sure that there is always unfortunately, the path to hell can be paved with good intentions. And so it's making sure that low-income folks who don't have the means aren't going to suddenly be slapped with a huge bill that they can't afford to pay for a gas furnace, and that there's an exemption, or there's ways that we can work out a process that they can afford that change.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That was a very insightful answer.
Yeah, of course.
A more personal question
Okay, yeah.
I want to ask was about the homelessness crisis currently going on.
Yeah.
Like every time when I'm walking to or from school or to or from my game development program, I often see a lot of homeless encampments and homeless shelters and just a lot of homeless people, people who are living and just are treated with just no respect and like no dignity, So I was just wondering, like, how are you going about basically fighting or mitigating the homelessness crisis?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a couple of things. First, it's obviously affordable housing that we absolutely need more of. We just had an announcement, actually. There's 3 sites in District 2 that just got funded for affordable housing, more than any other district in Oakland, by the way. So, yeah, by far. So, which is awesome. So that's one thing. I will say, beyond funding affordable housing, we also do need mental health resources that we are deeply missing. We do have the macro program, but I will say, I don't know if you all have called macro. There are ways that we need to reform that program, honestly. I've called macro myself. We also need to integrate these things within the county, our county government. I think what isn't well known by most members of the public is the county is really our social safety net. They run our healthcare systems. And so when people come to just city council to say, we need more mental health resources, I also point out, we are not the only government entity, and it is really incumbent upon the county to step up and provide more mental health resources, because they have the training, they have the existing, it's like things like Medicare and Medi-Cal and all these healthcare systems that they already interact with, that we really need to make sure that everything's talking to one another. Otherwise, we just create something like, this is my frustration, I think, with macro, is that they don't have the ability to take someone to like a psychiatric hospital, to transport somebody to ultimately the mental health care that they need, because they're not integrated into that system. So do it, but also do it smart, and because the devils are really in the details.
Thank you so much for coming here and just answering all of our questions and just giving us your time.
Yeah.
One question I really wanted to give you to close us out is, do you have any advice or just any tips for like aspiring youth that may be watching this, or most definitely are watching this?
Yeah. In terms of getting involved in politics, or just maybe finding yourself generally.
Yeah.
I would say, most immediately, for those of you interested in politics, I would say get involved at the local level. It's the most easy way to contribute. And you guys are already doing that by, having this podcast. It's having your voice and asking tough questions like you just did of me, of people who are policymakers. But also, we got internships in my office, so I'll just put that out there for any of your listeners to submit your resumes at district2@oaklandca.gov if you want to participate as an intern in my office. But I think, just generally speaking, it is what I said earlier, which is my message is especially for young folks who are not going through the best time right now, which is that just there is light at the end of the tunnel. And in fact, what you're going through, if you just keep your focus, I know it's really hard, try not getting sucked into, it can be hard, sucked into just things that are not going to be good for your future. Don't do it, because that's how your childhood trauma can wind up really bringing you down. Because unfortunately, in this society, the decisions that you make, even when you're young, have so much impact in your life circumstances. So try your best to just focus on, academics, sports, things that really will contribute to your future. And there is hope, and you'll look back on that and realize this period made you stronger.
Thank you. Thank you so
You're
much
welcome.
for
You're
just
welcome.
your answers and
Yeah.
your general disposition just coming in here. I'm sure we were all a little nervous before we started
Yeah.
this, but
Don't be nervous.
I feel like this went very well.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. This has been The Classroom, and if you want to learn more about YouthBeat, go to youthbeat.org and make sure to check us out. Signing off with a warm good night. Good night!
Good night.